Welcome back, everybody, to the Derby City Fandom podcast. Today, we are going to be covering, hopefully in a reasonable amount of time, the newest Captain America film that has come out, Brave New World. Now, gentlemen, welcome back.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Hey, Kenny. What's up, buddy?
Everybody doing okay?
Yeah, doing all right.
Cool.
This was an interesting film, to say the least.
To say the least, I cannot wait.
But before we go into Colin's favorite part, the ratings, I just want to say that maybe if you all have seen one of our shorts where I was saying it's like, okay, like, this Captain America is not like my Steve Rogers. I have never felt more called out by a film before because they bring it up. Oh,
do.
God. But I don't take back what I said. That'd be me being too much of a coward. But I think I do agree where they're coming from in that regard. But we'll get to that. Colin.
Well, hold on. Before we jump into my favorite part, to be fair, you did say that your favorite, your Captain America doesn't have wings and doesn't fly
Correct.
and all that, and he's a freaking.
He's a super soldier.
He's a jacked up dude on freaking steroids
From the 40s.
in the ice for 60 years. That's almost verbatim what you
Almost
said.
verbatim, yes. Good job remembering.
Yeah. No, I've got this all. But to be fair, like this is just a different Captain America, and we'll jump into that. But I think he kind of pulls his weight. But into the ratings. All right, my favorite part. We're looking at IMDb first. Rough. Got a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
And then Rotten Tomatoes gave it a whopping 48%.
Whoa. Wow. It's pretty low.
What do y'all think? Agree, disagree, neutral?
I mean, I think 48% is way too low.
48% is a bit low, but the 48% is the critical review from
Right.
people that do this professionally, I guess. But the popcorn meter, basically the public meter for Rotten Tomatoes, has it at a 79%.
Right.
I think that might be a little high, but I think this is a good 7 out of 10 film.
7 out of 10. That's what you think?
Correct.
Jake, what about you?
7 out of 10 is good. I go with 7.
Yep.
I like it.
I'm going to be a little harsh.
Okay, go for it. Tell us your gripes.
I think 6.5 is a little bit on the low end, but I'll give it a 6.6, 6.8.
Not that much different, okay.
It's not a 7. I'm sorry. It's definitely not a 7. Overall, it's an entertaining film, but there's some critiques that I have, and just the film overall raised more questions for me.
Sure.
But we'll get into that obviously here shortly.
Mm-hmm.
I went into this film with low expectations.
So did I.
So I watched it,
Same.
and I was genuinely pleased. I don't like it. Wasn't great. It wasn't the best film. I heard one person say that it was probably ranked at the bottom of all the Captain America films. But those are some tough shoes to fill.
Yeah, that's a tough act to follow.
Yeah. But the most previous films that Marvel has been pumping out have been pretty shitty, with the exception of like Deadpool, right? But so I don't know. It was I don't want to say it was meh. Like I thought it was good, but I also acknowledge that I went in with low expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny?
Yes, Colin.
No, I was gonna give you your turn.
My segue. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the best critical reviews I've read in regards to this film is that this film requires more than one watching. And I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like if a film is going to be good, it needs to stand on its own.
Have its own merits.
Yeah.
I wonder why. Do you agree with that sentiment? Because I disagree with that.
There are a lot of like little Easter egg cameo things dabbled throughout the entire movie that makes the film almost a little bit much to take in all at once.
Yes and no with the Easter eggs. There are definitely some Easter eggs and obviously cameos too, but let's start with the Easter eggs. The Easter eggs for me, I think were a bit of a nod, and so it actually gave me more respect for the film and I enjoyed it more.
Hmm.
And we can talk about the Easter eggs here in a bit. But when you just said you're reading up on some critic reviews, one of the critic reviews that I read was audiences were thrilled by action sequences and praised the acting performances. I got a comment to make about that part, but found that the storyline was boring and the pacing slow.
Pacing was slow.
Yeah,
I thought the pacing was clunky, like really fast. But
Hmm. Okay.
do you guys agree that was slow?
I think that they
I thought it was kind of all over the place, personally. But
the pacing. Uh, I don't think it was slow, but the way that they went about the film, like let's say Act One was the beginning, Act Two was the middle, and Act Three obviously being the end. The um, for me, I guess Act Three, if you will, obviously we're introduced to Red Hulk.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like that should have been Act Two. Does that make sense? That should have been like more of like the middle of the movie, and then resolving all of that and moving forward, that should have been Act Three. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah, I get you.
But
You wanted more Red Hulk.
well, yeah. I mean, look.
I think everyone did.
I think this is what should have happened. Obviously, in this film, we've said this about other films too, but Captain America: Brave New World, Sam ended up being a sidekick in his own film.
Yeah.
It's funny how that ends up happening in
A lot
some
of
of
people
these.
were saying it wasn't even a Captain America film. It was just a Hulk sequel,
How
like the
many
original
times have
Hulk
they done
sequel.
that? Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean,
I mean, that's the elephant in the room, right? They're
That's the
actually
elephant in the room.
acknowledging these other films that I guess even Marvel to a degree has kind of like acknowledged they exist, but they don't want to bring it up.
they don't want to bring it up at all, and that
But it's like you have to because there's a giant celestial stone thing in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and this is the first film to actually have talked about it.
oh my god, I want to get into that right now, but
That's
let's
like the biggest elephant in the room.
the
That
biggest elephant in the room by far for sure, but there's so many questions I have about this film in general, and let's just get into it. I mean,
sure,
obviously, okay, the film overall was entertaining. I enjoyed it, like you all said. I went in with no expectations, so overall the film was enjoyable. But with that being said, the critic in me was literally like nitpicking every freaking scene because I'm just a fan of Marvel. That's just who I am.
sure.
I'm gonna freaking like, all right, where is this gonna lead off to? Gripe number one: the freaking giant celestial that is now freaking made of adamantium, right?
Hmm.
That is now official canon, right?
Yep.
Nothing was at all done about that. They just
It was a plot MacGuffin to
right.
drive
Okay,
a
they
later
found
thing.
out
That's
that a
all.
piece the celestial being was made of adamantium, and that's it. But they're
Mhm.
gonna have a giant naval battle, air quotes, around it and not go any further. It's just like let's focus on one thing here.
Yeah. Well, that was Ross's, I guess, underlying subplot was trying to get his treaty passed.
Get the freaking treaty, which was very vague.
Basically, just equal mining rights between everybody that was nearby, and like the various countries that had like the most immediate access, with it being in the Indian Ocean. So you're looking at like, well, India, Japan, China, France.
I mean,
France was involved, like they were
technically it's international water, right?
correct.
So, I mean, yeah, so there should be equal opportunity for all countries.
Hmm.
There is plenty to go around, obviously. And what they do with those resources should, however, be, you know,
managed in some fashion.
managed in some fashion, exactly, by all governments or just one entity in itself. Like, all right, you can do it for make this product or whatever, weaponry, but to a degree,
The problem is, I think, in that regard, and I feel like this is where you're going to, but correct me if I'm wrong. They needed to explain the actual details of the treaty. They
right.
don't
That's what
spend
I'm
a whole
saying.
lot of time on that.
That's what I said just a minute ago. Is the freaking treaty was vague as fuck. Like
Yeah.
they just said, "Oh, we gotta freaking get this treaty. We're gonna bring Paris, or we're gonna bring France and India on into the table." But
Hmm.
oh, freaking Japan, they're pissed about this because somebody stole their sample or whatever. It's like,
True. It's like they make a point to say that this stuff is potentially more durable than vibranium,
yes,
and they also make a point to say that, oh, this stuff, we have a chance to have something on par with Wakanda without being an isolation nation.
right.
So that's like the big kind of driving point there, is that, oh, we have a chance to be as advanced as Wakanda without all their stipulations.
I feel like they explained that though.
Not really.
You don't think so?
No.
I
Like,
mean, I overall agree with you, Colin, that the movie had underdeveloped plots. That's why I said it was pretty quick and clunky. It was kind of fast paced. So that's why I disagree. If whoever said it was slow, it was like, you didn't watch the same movie as I did. Like, I thought they had really good plots. They had some very clever ideals. And The Social Island, like, we all agree Eternals was a terrible movie. Like, and this point is just an
it has some cool
ongoing.
action scenes, but like the writing is just
Yeah,
bad.
the giant
So
celestial being coming out of the ocean, the celestial island or whatever they call it. And
yeah,
it's just basically a running joke at this point. But I think they kind of spun it in a fun, intriguing way.
like
So I
they
don't necessarily,
finally acknowledged it. So
yeah, yeah. So I don't necessarily
that's
disagree
finally
with the
taken
plot, but
care
I
of.
do agree with Colin that it was underdeveloped. I think they
Hmm.
tried to do a little bit too much, and even on the villains, like the antagonist side, like that, there was components and characters of the movie that I really loved, and unfortunately, they were underdeveloped.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now I don't know if it's the particular actor or not, but I enjoyed Sidewinder a lot more than I've enjoyed Stern.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I enjoyed them all. I thought Sidewinder was cool. I thought the leader was cool, or Stern, and I thought President Ross was cool too.
Oh yeah. I
But
mean
it's
the
like it was almost a wasted opportunity.
hmm
Like they had three really cool characters, and they should have just like picked one, maybe two. You agree, Kenny? Like I feel like
yeah.
the villains are awesome, but they were so underdeveloped. I'm like, man, they really just wasted a good opportunity here.
Now part of that is that you're expected to have watched the Edward Norton Hulk film because they bring it up, right? Like that's was, I guess, the original source of all of this.
Yeah.
Uh, at least for uh, you know, old Thunderbolt Thaddeus Ross.
Yeah, they even bring up Abomination.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So bringing on, like, the original Hulk film that they've gone out of their way to acknowledge it exists, but then they just, like, kind of shoved Edward Norton under the rug and went with Ruffalo instead, right?
Right.
But we see some of the aftermath of that, and basically it's like, oh, this is the revenge plot that is within the Hulk storyline, basically, and then Captain America happens to be in it.
Yep.
So I think I agree with you there, where it does kind of come off as like, it's a Hulk sequel that doesn't star the Hulk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 Once again, you can't have name a main movie about a particular character and he's involved, don't get me wrong, but not as much as I would want a Captain America
Yeah.
character to be involved.
Hmm.
What was your favorite character, Colin?
My favorite character?
Same question to you, Kenny.
I I'll tell you my least favorite character is definitely
Come on,
what's
that's
her
an
name?
easy one.
Sabra or whatever, the freaking short girl that was a super soldier. Or no, she was a Black Widow,
Ruth,
sorry.
yeah,
Oh,
Bat Seraph
yeah.
was her last name. I think they call her
Anyway,
that.
favorite
I forgot
character,
about her. So that shows you how much.
I did not hate the Falcon.
Okay, so you liked Joaquin Torres, his
Yes.
character? Well, I guess Danny Ramirez is the actor, but Joaquin
hmm
Torres.
Yeah. So, come to find out, I actually didn't know this until I was talking with a colleague at work today, but I didn't actually know this, but that is actually kind of comically accurate. Um, come to find out. So, I thought that was cool. So, that's why I, thinking about it after work and on the way here, I was thinking, I actually enjoyed that particular character more um, after having seen the film. So, I would say probably him because, yeah.
Okay.
Mine was Harrison Ford, man. I thought he crushed it.
Yeah. Like
Mhm.
once you realize that he's like debilitated as like Thaddeus Ross, it comes off as like, okay, he's keeping it together, but like you can tell that he's still just pissed with Bruce Banner in particular for effectively stealing away his daughter,
Hmm.
even though like nothing ever became any, at least in this timeline. Like Banner and Betty are not together anymore,
Right.
so he's still a little bit pissed about that. I imagine, which is I think where we get some of the Red Hulk from, because Red Hulk is kind of characterized as the smoldering like anger and hatred
Yeah.
chunk of like the Hulk universe, instead of like the green like I am nothing but a like destruction rage machine.
Yeah. I really like this character. I thought Harrison Ford did a good job. I probably watched it primarily because I wanted to see the Red Hulk. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Disappoint, man.
Yeah, I
I
mean
thought it
it's
was fun.
it's Marvel's first introduction to the Red Hulk, obviously, and Harrison Ford's premiere to the Marvel universe,
Hmm.
obviously.
You
Um,
think we'll get more of them?
Cameos because he's stuck in the raft now. Spoilers,
yeah.
but
So let's kind of let's talk about the Hulk for the Red Hulk a little bit. So my question is, obviously, he's had some health issues, and that's portrayed in the earlier films. In the Infinity Saga, essentially,
hmm
he made that joke like he had his best round of golf that one time, and then he had a quadruple bypass or whatever. So obviously, we know that he's had some health issues, hence why um, he kind of worked alongside Stearns there for a minute and started taking those pills. But I don't. He did not realize what those pills were,
correct,
essentially, right?
because
Yep.
Which kind of find out it was just a bunch of gamma radiation pills, essentially,
yep.
Yep.
infused, if you
Hmm.
will. So my question is, obviously he didn't know, but what was Stern's motive behind that? Like, was he out to get?
He was out to get Ross because he was pinned for basically all the destruction in Harlem.
Yeah,
Like that's why he was initially sent to jail, and he had been in jail for 15 some odd years. And the deal was like for the pills that he would be set free, exonerated, whatever the term is.
hmm
Uh, but because Ross is Ross, and the other underlying kind of theme of like do people change? Well, aside from the Hulk actually being like a symbol of a person changing, we see Ross trying to change his character. Like instead of being like the grumpy old like grizzled war guy that's like pissed off at superheroes because one of them happened to date his daughter. Uh, we see him trying to go through that throughout the film. Now,
Yeah.
That's what Stearns kind of preys on. It's like
Yeah.
his desire to change, and he uses his desire to get back at Ross slowly over time, though, to basically ruin everything that he's ever worked up to be.
Hmm. And, since we're talking about, Ross being basically a shit character overall, I kind of do wish that they would have done a better job in showing his, for lack of a better word, change in character. Instead of being this grumpy old dude, I wish they would have just done that better. Does that make sense? Because
Hmm.
obviously, like they show like that turning point when he's on the phone with his daughter Betty in the Oval Office. You kind of see like that turning point. But typically in movies, when that character um, has that come to moment of like, oh, he actually is trying to change and become a better person, it's pretty much like within the next 5 minutes or the next scene, like something terrible happens.
Oh, generally, yeah.
Yeah. So it did sort of touch on that a little bit, but I wish they would have gone about it in a little more detail instead of like grumpy pretty much the whole movie. Then he had that one sequence where he's actually trying to change, and then the
Hmm.
very next scene, I kind of wish that was better. But with that being said, I did. Why did they bring Liv Tyler into the movie? Why?
Was
I
she the
wish.
original Betty Ross?
Yeah, yeah,
Was she?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. She, yeah. I wish they would just left her on the phone instead of later on in the movie. Spoilers.
Or
Actually,
like,
You talking about
we just get like a silhouette of her.
the end credit scene?
no, no,
No,
no,
no,
no.
like when they're on the raft, like right before the credits roll.
Oh,
Yeah, Liv Tyler. She ends up going to say hi to her dad.
Yeah. Basically, Captain America goes and like checks up on the old soldier. I think was the more or less the phrase he used to see how he was holding up, and like basically throw like a little jab that's like, oh yeah, I remember the time that you said all heroes were basically outlaws, and you made me stay here for 3-4 months. So ha, now you're on the other side of the bars.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, since we're still on Hulk, my other question was
It was a Hulk movie, so
yeah, no, really. My other question was when Ross is giving his speech or whatever at the podium at the White House,
Like at
and
the
then
end there,
yeah, towards the end a little bit, he obviously turns into Hulk, right?
correct.
We see the Hulk basically Red Hulk come out of his clothes, but not in Green Hulk fashion. We see that the clothes themselves are turning into ash.
Yeah, they're burning because of the rage, effectively, and all the anger. Yeah,
No,
you don't think so?
that doesn't make sense because the rage and everything for Green Hulk, the clothes are torn off. They're not turned into ash.
Right.
So the rage thing that doesn't make sense. It's more of a question of is there something in the pills that he's taken that turned his clothes into ash? Because they were literally burning off of him, not being
Right.
torn off, Green Hulk style.
This is hard to explain in terms of like how the different varieties of Hulks kind of interact with gamma radiation because it affects basically all of them different. Like you all might know like the Gray Hulk that is like the mobster
Yeah.
who is like very intelligent, but he's also just like petty criminal almost because he like goes around and like uses like the Thompson submachine gun and stuff. Like he's like a like 1920s mobster. Like that's the thing they go for. Red Hulk here, we see him just being angry, like just rage building slowly up over time. While like Green Hulk, the one most people are familiar with, is kind of more animalistic and just like violent, like abrupt violence. It's like his shtick. So that's why he's like ripping like real quickly out of his clothes, while we see Red Hulk just kind of slowly just like burning away like the old.
Hmm. I don't. That doesn't really. Okay.
You don't think that adds up?
No, I think there's more to it.
There is more. I haven't done too much research into Red Hulk, but if we ever get like a World War Hulk film, then or Planet Hulk film, that'd be fun
Yeah.
to dive back into.
I'm guessing we'll never see Red Hulk again. I would imagine.
You don't think so?
I mean, I hope so.
I don't think
but,
we'll
like,
see Harrison Ford's Red Hulk,
No,
No.
man.
but
I think that's done. I think
yeah.
it should be done. Well,
Nah, man. I like Harrison Ford.
Oh yeah.
all right. So that's pretty much covers Hulk for me. What about Isaiah? What are your thoughts on Isaiah?
I mean, he's just another plot point. It's just that you have some of the black.
Another black boy.
Well,
You're
it's
so
what
right. It's so clunky, man. It's all
it,
over the place.
like the problem is that I haven't. I feel like I am missing content somewhere in regards to their relationship between
Sam and
between
Isaiah.
Sam and
You had to
Isaiah.
watch the series.
Okay, so that's probably why.
So
Then I haven't watched the series.
they go into their relationship a little bit in the series for Winter Soldier and Falcon or whatever that
Mhm.
series is called. And
That is what it's called, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier. but-
yeah, and so, it's the whole series essentially is finding out that yeah, there are other super soldiers and they all have the serum
Mhm.
ingested or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that whole thing, that series was about. And so with this movie, they touch a little bit on that, but I feel like they're going for the approach of like introducing other super soldiers. I don't think that was really necessary. I think like, yeah, if you're gonna introduce super soldiers, just have one particular character that represents them as a whole and make a storyline off of that. Not necessarily, hey, you have a super soldier Isaiah, but there's other super soldiers that you see but aren't really of importance
Yeah.
in the movie. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point,
Because
the
they end up
only
getting killed.
right, the only like super soldiers that I would say most people are familiar with that are still around would be Bucky.
Right.
So having another one just kind of show up, I hadn't watched the series, so I'm like, wait, what do you mean this guy has the serum?
Yeah, yeah.
So that bit was lost to me.
And he happens to be running for Congress now. So
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I actually, it was really, really awesome. The fact that they brought in Bucky for
it was a cool little cameo.
that was
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed that. And that was my question
I was
too,
waiting for him. I was the entire time. I was like, man, they gotta bring Bucky in eventually.
see, I was unsure of it. Like I didn't really look into like any spoilers or thing ahead of time of watching the film. So I actually went in open minded, like I said, and seeing him was I- like it was awesome. I really,
Yeah.
really, really enjoyed that. And that was my question is like, okay, so now he's going to some campaign. He has to take a plane to go do some campaign. So he's some kind of senator. So come to find out, once again, talking to a colleague at work, turns to find out that he's actually going to be a senator representing the super soldiers essentially.
Hmm.
Oh.
I probably worded that terribly, but that's pretty much the end goal
Yeah.
is a representative of those enhanced individuals.
Right, because the Sarkovia Accords are still in effect, correct? Or did that get dissolved?
It's see that
That's the other kind of like other like just behind the scenes kind of thing of oh, this is why Ross doesn't like soldiers is because they're outside of government control.
yeah, so that whole interaction between Harrison Ford and Anthony Mackie, like he wants to bring back the Accords essentially. Like he changed his mind. Like, dude, it was your idea from the
Yeah,
beginning
it
to
was
do this, and there was a literal Civil War air quotes movie made about it, and now
mhm,
we're freaking taking back and it dude that whole thing just kind of just grinded
yeah.
my gears.
Well, Colin,
You know what,
it,
Grant?
it is a brand new world, a brave new world, some might even say. But
You know what, Grant? My gears, Colin.
Go ahead.
What?
They took away my intro.
Oh,
Did that bother you all?
Oh, like the Marvel.
Oh my gosh, bring it
I
back.
didn't even think about that.
They took it away.
I did notice that.
I used to love watching that thing. It's like it's just so nostalgic.
Yeah.
You see all the former characters, you're like, oh yeah, man, I was back in high school when I saw that film. Oh yeah, that movie was awesome. Well,
That doesn't age you at all.
whatever. But it was so nostalgic, and I was like, man, and they took it away. I was
I
like, they
wonder
better bring
if
that back.
I
I
bet the
might stop.
digital version will probably have that. I feel like that is that seems like it's such a weird exclusion.
I, it's unnecessary. Bring it back. I might start boycotting until they bring it back.
I call bullshit on that.
I do want it back though. It's so
Fair enough.
nostalgic. I love that intro. Like what grinds my gears, Colin.
All right. Should we actually talk about Captain America at this point? I mean, I suppose it is
obviously,
not his film
He was
if
in the
I'm to
he was in
listen
the
to you
film.
all,
I forgot.
but
with a side of Falcon. Sure,
the side of
let's do it.
Falcon.
All right. What were your all's takes on Anthony Mackie as a whole? How did he pull off Captain America?
I think that he pulls off the action sequences the same way, with a caveat that he now has like a
Wait,
vibranium suit too to match the vibranium shield, courtesy of Wakanda.
yeah,
But so some of the techniques are different. Some of the CQC is different, but you can see the DNA there. He's throwing the shield. The shield is bouncing off random things at seemingly impossible angles and hitting the target, like Captain America stuff,
and doing the little kick flip.
doing kickflips.
Yeah,
I thought his character was good because he was the only character in the film that had actual development, and they
That's
kind of showed it.
kind of
The
the
point.
point,
Yeah.
I guess, because the only people that are supposed to have development, as we find out, should be Captain America and Ross.
But there's the scenes where he's going back and forth of like, oh man, should I've taken the super soldier serum?
I think that was well done.
Yeah,
yeah.
Which is why I'm over here eating my words, because it's just like, oh, they've called it out.
They
They called me out on my bullshit.
that's Kenny. Yes, yeah, I agree with you, but at the same time, I'm gonna stick with what I said earlier. I'm defending what you said, but at the same time, they did bring it up. So to call you out, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. Like, no, man, you didn't need to take the serum. Like, Steve Rogers handed down the gauntlet to you for a reason.
Yeah.
All right. He saw potential in you. Embrace that. Do what you got to do. There's no need to take any serum of any kind. Just keep doing what you're doing. And that showed in the film. Like
Mhm.
he obviously did some training and whatnot. We kind of see that in the series a little bit. And so you're saying, he's doing all the kick flips and all the shit with the shield, but he also has the wings, um, which are made of vibranium thanks to Wakanda, right?
Hmm.
And they touch base a little bit in the beginning, like you can see the vibranium turning purple because it's absorbing all of this
All the energy.
energy, right? But they don't really show him being able to utilize that and use it against said enemy until much later in the film.
Right.
And so that kind of, I wish they would have done it sooner, but at least they did it.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. It's Anthony Mackie. I think he held his own.
yeah, he's good.
Yeah. I think it was the scene where he's talking to Bucky, like watching over the Falcon getting like his surgery done or whatever, right? And Bucky tells him, it's like, okay, Steve Rogers represented this one thing, and like he represented hope, but you represent like what everyone else, like all the normal people can aspire to.
Right.
So that part was well done. That might have been my favorite part of the film,
Yeah.
aside from the
No, I agree.
like
That
all
was
of the
probably one
action
of my-
sequences will speak for themselves, but the
Yeah.
writing, I think, right there in particular was the strongest.
That was a very,
Yeah.
very strong point for sure. But here's my question. Obviously, we see part of the suit get torn apart and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Where did he get the other suit that was in the wall that he got out? Where did that other suit come from?
I don't know. Maybe Wakanda gave him a spare.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking too. But that was never explained. Like he just had a spare hiding in a freaking secret hiding spot in the wall.
Yeah, but I mean, they were at um the Avengers like little headquarters spot.
You have to admit that raises a question though.
Sure, yeah.
So where did it come from? Anyway,
Does the movie at some point they talk about in the movie about how Sam's being tasked to restart the Avengers?
Hmm.
Does anything come from that near the end? Do they talk about it again?
They
Or
do
is that
like
all cliffhanger?
as he is done with all the Red Hulk shenanigans. He goes visit Joaquin in the hospital while he's recovering, and we get another kind of like emotional moment of how the Falcon had looked up to Captain America, up to Sam in particular, ever since he was like some random kid in Miami,
yep.
and talking about how much like that has like meant to him and how much like just his influence has affected his life. And that's when they bring up again the whole like, oh, we're restarting the Avengers.
Yes,
Yeah, I forgot
and
about that.
we're going to see that in a later film, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, but in regards to the Falcon, you know, like I said, he is probably my favorite character, or at least one of, or no, he's my favorite character. That's fair. Um, the Falcon, man, like once again, handing down the gauntlet essentially from Sam to Suarez, whatever his name is,
Joaquin.
Joaquin, right? You know, he was able to handle his own. I feel like obviously you see when he gets shot down. I don't know if y'all saw this or not, but like when he was getting shot down, that definitely was an Easter egg, sort of, when Brody got shot down and Tony Stark went down to
Yeah,
save him,
try to save him real
tried to
quick.
save him. So that's I kind of pieced that together a little bit. So that was a cool little throwback. I don't know if it was done intentionally or not. Maybe it's just coincidence,
I
but
think that might have been coincidence, but that is kind of a good nod,
yeah,
if anything.
it has to be a nod, right?
Sure.
But can we go to Easter eggs a little bit though?
Yeah.
All right, Easter egg time.
Speaking of nods, one of the nods that I also noticed was when Sam went to the raft to talk to Ross. He too was also in a sling, like when Tony Stark went to the raft, and he was on the other side of that wall
Hmm.
when he was in prison, right? When they were back and forth. Y'all remember that?
Yeah, that
Okay,
conversation
I
they had.
believe you then.
It was well, that conversation was between him and Steve Rogers, wasn't it?
No, it was between Tony and Sam. He was
Was it
asking him,
Tony and Sam?
yeah, he literally disabled their security footage. He's
That's
like,
right.
oh, yeah, they just are now going to figure this out. I'm going in as a friend, whatever. But he was in the sling. Tony was when he was talking to Sam, who was, in fact, in prison on the raft. This time in this movie, Sam was in a sling talking to Ford.
Gotcha. I'm thinking that because all of that's back in the end of Civil War, isn't it?
Right, right,
So
right.
I might have just
Obviously on the
misremembered
raft,
then.
you see Ant-Man, and you also see Hawkeye and whatever.
Hmm.
So I thought that was a cool little nod too. Anybody else notice any Easter eggs, nods, anything? Kenny, of all people, you should have at least.
Well, I mean, we do get to see some street level footage of the Hulk and Abomination just beating the shit out of each other.
Yes, in the
So
very, very
that's
beginning.
fun towards the beginning.
In the very beginning.
We're reintroduced to the Red Room and how like there are just random assassins and government everywhere basically because that's how the Red Room operated.
Yeah.
So
What'd y'all think of um the short girl who ended up being a widow?
Bat Seraph, s-
Indifferent.
indifferent. She seemed to be a bit more on the tech savvy side. So she didn't have the same kind of like kick flips and like
There's a little bit. There's a
oh,
little
there's a
bit.
little bit of it, but not to the same level as we saw out of
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlet or the The one that came immediately after her. I can't
Ye-
remember her name.
Yelena,
Yes, her.
her sister.
Y- Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Again, that's why I said I don't remember.
Yeah. So
I'll take your
we
word for
see a little bit,
it.
she does some flippy floppies and shit like
Yeah,
that.
she
But
realizes that something's going on and that she's also being played for the fool.
yeah, yeah.
So
But
that's when she
overall,
eventually
for
turns.
me, her as a character, I found her annoying as fuck. I didn't care for her character whatsoever.
Yeah.
That might be a hot take. And a short right there.
Fair enough.
Anything else?
I have one final question. I can wait till the end, unless you want me to say it now.
Well, I think we're still on the Easter eggs. There was another one. I feel like it had something to do with Sidewinder, but I can't place it. So go ahead, Colin. You probably have a list, I imagine.
No, actually, I don't.
Killing me. You're killing me.
That's okay, though.
Okay.
Jake, what's your question? I know you're dying to ask it.
Oh, if you guys remember, maybe the last time we were doing an episode, we kind of debated if this movie was going to do better or worse than the upcoming Fantastic Four. You guys
Yep.
recall that?
Yep, sure do.
So, do you guys still feel confident in your prediction that Fantastic Four is going to beat this one out in the box office?
I think it is.
It probably will, mostly because this one ended up being
Surprisingly, it's number
surprisingly
one in the
mid.
world right now. I think that's what I saw on the interwebs. Is the number one movie in the world right now. But that doesn't make sense with the ratings that we had aforementioned.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I feel a little less confident in my prediction because I was banking on.
Oh, so you're
going the opposite
you're
direction.
going the
now.
opposite
No,
direction.
I'm standing behind the Captain America: Brave New World. I'm standing behind it, but I feel a little less confident. No, it did decent. I think it's definitely in the black, right? But
The thing
Interesting.
is,
less
I think
confident.
now this is somewhat related to this film, but it's about, I guess, movies in general. Do you feel like it's better for a film to be like either like really good or really bad, or just having it be mediocre? I think it's worse if it's mediocre because then you don't remember it.
So here's
I mean, you don't want
my
it to be
thing.
bad.
If we're
But if
generally
it's bad,
speaking,
you remember it though. It's in your brain because it's like, oh, this film was so terrible. I actually kind of like it because it's so terrible.
okay, hold on.
Yeah.
All right, I want to jump in on this. So, with that being said, generally speaking, with movies, is it better to be good or bad or in the middle? Generally speaking, it's better to be uh good, obviously. But if
Correct.
you're
Yeah.
bad, people are gonna be like one and done. But if you're in the middle, particularly in the Marvel universe and whichever phase we're in, if you're in the middle, obviously like that's going to affect either future films or past films. If you're terrible like the Eternals, you're gonna remember that one bad movie. You have to because there are things that are brought up and you can't just forget them and just throw them or toss them underneath the carpet. Like that's
Right.
going
That's
to
the point
affect
I'm getting
future
to.
films. Like
Yeah.
with the celestial being that's in the freaking Indian Ocean right now. That was a huge like W the fuck.
For several films.
Right. And so now we're getting to the point of all right, there's this giant celestial being in the ocean. Future films are now going to be affected by that celestial being,
Yeah.
obviously. In regards to like say Shang-Chi, where are we at with that? I mean, that overall that movie was freaking fantastic. I thought that was a great
It
film.
was a good one.
Maybe even going towards like mediocre, but on the higher side of it, it was not a bad film at all. But where are we with Shang-Chi? Like, where are they during all of these films that are currently coming out or in the near future coming out?
Right.
What's been going on there?
Hmm.
So all these future films and past films are obviously
Are all affected.
all affected. So it's
But it just in terms of being like a consumer, as much as I hate to say it, I remember more about the Eternals because it was bad than I probably will Captain America because it was just kind of mid.
I agree with you. I mean, I hate to admit it, but you're 100% right.
Like that seems so weird to say. That's something that ended up just being so much worse, I guess, in quality. However
Yeah.
you want to describe the Eternals,
The one thing I can think
it
of
sticks out
that would
more.
counteract that would be if we had we need another team up movie.
There,
Well, that's what the
that's
Avengers films are. That's
That's
why they're trying to restart the Avengers.
so
That's like the
trying to
whole plot
restart
of
the
this film.
Avengers. They're going to be
what
doing
I'm
the Thunderbolts too. Let's not forget about them.
where
Yeah,
I'm going with the team up ideal is I think that would help. I think that helps immensely if it's like a mediocre film. Does that
okay,
make sense?
yeah,
So like if you have a team up film and obviously Sam's going to be in it, I think that's going to help his kind of franchise out.
sure,
But then Eternals is still just going to be shitty.
yeah. Now, I will say that a mid film has a chance to get a sequel. The Eternals will not see the light of day. There will not be an Eternals 2.
Yeah.
Like that's just a bad business decision. No investor is going to want to do that.
Dude, honestly, I'm not convinced Sam's going to get another film.
You don't think so?
I think he might get some meetup stuff, but I don't know. Do you all?
Well, I mean,
I know at
any
the
meetup
end
film that
he's
he's going to get is going to be like 3 to 4 years out. Like they haven't even begun to. Well, they might have begun to like write
So
him
you're
into
you're
stuff.
asking if he's going to get a sequel from this current film?
yeah.
No,
I'm not convinced he is either.
he's not going to get a sequel because he already had his own series along with freaking Bucky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a season 2. Maybe I could see that.
That's the only logical way
You
to
think
go
they go
about
the
it.
I
TV
think they
route with it?
tease it right in the end of the movie. They don't say like he will return. Don't they tease
No,
it?
no. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to bring up, right?
Go
So
ahead.
he's talking to Stearns, and he's like, "All right, all this shit's about to happen. I have this big brain. There are others that are you are going to have to face." So that was my big question: is who are the others that you're referring to?
Right.
Like, are you referring to Galactus because that is a singular celestial entity? The others, are you talking about Doctor Doom? Are we going into further the multiverse? Or all the multiverses going to collide at some point? Like,
Could you
what?
imagine if they somehow like shoehorned Kang back into this?
Like, are we going to reintroduce Kang? Like, is somebody going to take up the reins there? Like, the others, what is that referring to? And that's my kind of thing. It's like,
Well, that's the point. They leave it ambiguous for that reason.
and that's what. No, no. I mean, yes. Yes, I agree, and that pisses me off. But at the same time, that just raises more questions for this particular phase, because at least in the earlier phases, we knew we're gonna get to Endgame, we're gonna have Thanos and Infinity Stones, that kind of thing.
Sure,
With this new phase, they're all over the fucking place.
correct. But that's also why they do these end credit things
Right.
to drive intrigue.
But if you look at Eternals, we're freaking being introduced to freaking vampires and a bunch of other shit. So
Yeah,
are
I
we
mean, you're not
facing?
wrong.
Is it going to be the Avengers versus vampires and freaking Galactus and Doctor Doom? Like, I know I'm being ridiculous, but you get the point, though.
I do. Like, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just that they're trying to, in a way, respark interest for those of us that have kind of fallen off the Marvel wagon.
I've fallen off.
To Colin's point, where I think what you're saying is, and originally those end credit scenes would build on to like what's coming, not necessarily next, but like at least 2 film or 3 films away.
Sure. I mean, that's what they were doing all through the Infinity Saga. I agree with you there.
But
Like they were
lately,
building up Thanos.
but for a while there, they kind of lost track. Because like that's perfect example of Eternals. It's just like the end credit scene where they showed Blade, right? And then like reference Blade and they reference someone else.
Yeah,
Morbius, probably.
it's freaking
But it was
Kit Harington. He's
Yeah.
going to be playing a particular character. I can't remember what.
but it was like just completely out of nowhere. Where before, where they would show you, hey, here's a new character, but literally the next movie came out and like there was the character, so it actually built on each other.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with this is I'm not convinced he's gonna get another film. Like I'm sure he'll probably be thrown in a meetup. Maybe he'll get a season 2 or something, but I don't know where they're taking
I
this.
think at the end of the movie, I did see Captain America will return in, but I was kind of like walking out because I just didn't really care enough. But I think I did see that, and I just didn't see which movie. So
the
I'm
newest
wondering.
Captain Marvel film.
I'm wondering if there was in fact the new Avengers film, or maybe it would have been. I
I
don't know.
assume it's coming down the pike, right? Because I haven't looked at the
It is
timeline.
free money. Like Marvel would be silly to not have another big team up film. It's just how.
Because they spoke about it quite a bit in this
Hmm.
film.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, there's going to be
Yeah.
another team up. It's just
And then the other side issue with that is that there's now two separate team films coming out this year between the Fantastic Four and the Thunderbolts, both coming out this year.
yes,
So it's like how do we get
I'm still
them
not like,
into the
man.
picture?
I don't
but
know. I'm not.
I mean Haley Steinfeld, whatever the fuck her name is, and Yelena, like all of that.
I'm not excited about those, man. I know you guys disagree with me on it. I know we're getting off track, but I'm gonna watch it. I'm not excited for Fantastic Four or the Thunderbolts.
Interesting.
I want more Avengers.
They're all dead or
Oh,
retired.
yeah. It's like most of them, I guess, flat out just didn't get the contract renewed, just in terms of business, because they've done so well that they can now ask for a lot more money. And even Disney has a limit to their paychecks that they can cash out to people.
I know. I know.
There will probably be like
Breaking my heart, Kim.
there will probably be like cameos or something
Sure.
in future films, but overall with this Captain America film, I think it raises more questions about where the future is headed.
Sure. And I think I agree with you there. It's a surprisingly mid film. It ends up being more geared towards the Hulk, and that kind of ends up driving the intrigue for a lot of people. It's like, oh, like the trailer spoiled the Red Hulk. Like it's on all the movie posters. So then it's just like, oh, okay, clearly, like this Hulk, like you see the Hulk's face, and it looks like Harrison Ford. So it's just like, okay, we know where this film's going. It's just a matter of watching to see how you get there, right?
I hate to admit it. Do you think most people watched it because of the Red Hulk?
Yeah. I mean, for me, yeah. I didn't
It,
really
it
give a
was
shit
a
about it.
driving point, I think.
It was
More
definitely,
so than Captain America.
yeah. No, absolutely. That's 100%.
I
Captain
agree.
America,
I
I
mean,
was
I get
excited
it.
to see and how that turned out, but that was definitely a driving factor to go see this film
Yeah.
in theater.
Hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna wait till freaking Disney Plus. No, it's not. It's not at all the same.
Right.
Closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts? I mean, I think I've said my piece on it. It's a good film, kinda, right? Like that's it. It's not like a wet blanket sort of film, but it's there,
Yeah.
and I think that might be the worst thing that it could have been, is that it's just there. It's been done, right? It's completed. It's going to earn its money back because it's Marvel.
Jake?
I agree with Kenny. It was a good film. It was entertaining. I don't regret seeing it. I thought they did a good job like putting it together, but it's just there. It's kind of meh. I don't want to say meh. It's slightly above meh. Actually, it is meh. I'm gonna knock it down a notch because they took away my intro. If they had my original intro, it would be decent slash good.
Overall, for me, it was an entertaining film. Obviously, I've made my gripes public. In regards to the film itself, it is a meh film. It's not the worst like the Eternals, calling that out, obviously. Um, will I see it again? I'll probably watch it when these other films in the future come out just to get like a refresher, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's one of those movies that might be a one and done for me. In regards to the acting, I guess for the most part, I thought it was swell acting
Hmm.
for most of the characters. Maybe a handful were just like, why are you even in this film? But anyway, yeah, that's kind of my thought. Um, if you all agree, let us know in the comments. Obviously, you can find us on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Um, Look us up on YouTube. Give us a follow. Give us a like. Let us know your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next time.